All right, I'm going to let everybody in. Welcome all. We're going to take just a few moments as folks are being admitted into the program. We've got a few more folks joining us. All right, well, thank you all very much for joining us this Friday afternoon. My name is Erin Lurie, and I am the head of adult audiences. My pronouns are she, her. I'm delighted that we can gather virtually together, both with friends near and far. I hope that those of you who are in the DC area or planning a visit this spring will come and visit Hillwood and enjoy. We've got just about a month left with our current special exhibition, The Luxury of Clay, Porcelain Past and Present. I'll drop a link in the chat in just a few minutes, but I hope you'll plan your visit soon. And I wanted to share a few notes about today's class. Ami Wilber is Hillwood's floral and event decor designer, and she'll be going step by step through creating an arrangement today, stopping along the way for questions. The demonstration will take about 45 minutes or so together, and please submit any questions you have using the chat feature. That is going to be the best way for me to make sure we get all of those questions to Ami in a timely way and keep moving. And I'll do my best to make sure we get to all of those. At the end of our demonstration, we turn to my favorite part of the program, which is our little show and tell, where we invite everyone who is working along at home to turn on your camera if you wish. We'll feature everyone who is interested, and we can answer questions about your arrangements or just see exactly how you've put it together today. So it's now my pleasure to pass us over to Ami Wilber.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I was thinking that it would be a nice, bright, sunny day, but it's a little bit rainy and cloudy here in DC. So I think that'll make for a fun time for us to be together and creating an arrangement. The inspiration for today, if you haven't seen it, you should come to Hillwood and investigate the show. But we wanted to do something that was from a piece out of the current exhibition. So we decided to do Good Trouble as our theme for today. And I think that it is a good piece to reference, especially with everything going on these days. So without being sort of too political about any of this, I wanted to create something that was going to be reflective mostly of the color inspiration from the piece that I got to see. And it had all of these very bright sort of primary colors. And I decided to pick out a couple of the different colors from the container, from the vase, and use that as a way to sort of tie in the theme for the arrangement for today. We were able to find a kind of fun piece of pottery that is a little bit different than our typical pottery that we usually have for our arrangements. And I'm going to start by going step by step how we're going to create this arrangement. And if Erin, you could share my screen as the main screen, that would be fantastic. So we're going to start with a piece of chicken wire, and I'm going to just kind of roll this up into a little ball. And then we're going to put it into our container like this. So it's in there. I'm going to use some clear floral tape, but any kind of floral tape that you have or any kind of tape will work. I like to use the clear just because you then don't see it as much when it is taped down to the container. I'm just going to do a crisscross with my tape. And then to make sure that it's nice and secure on, I will run the tape all around the edge as well. So you can see I have like a little cross section, and I am ready to go with my container. What you can't really see is my Lazy Susan that I have my container on. I find that this is always a very helpful tool to just sort of have your container in place, and that way you don't have to move it around, and it keeps it sort of from jostling around too much. So the reason we use chicken wire, two things. One is because it is much more environmentally friendly than using floral foam. And then the second reason is I find that it's actually easier to design in chicken wire. And then also I think that the flowers stay fresher longer because they're sitting directly in the water instead of being clogged up by styrofoam. So the next thing we're going to do, which is always very important, is to water the container. And then whenever you are checking in on your arrangement, you want to really think maybe like every day to see if you need more water in your container, because obviously that is going to help prolong your blooms as well. Flowers do like to drink water, and so make sure that it's always nice and full. If you want to change out your water, again, using the chicken wire is nice and easy. You can just kind of go over to the sink, gently pour out your water, and then refill it. We don't put anything in the water, but if you have those little floral foam packets, definitely feel free to add those in. The only reason we don't do that is just out of habit, because we don't put anything in the water that goes into the mansion. That way there's no possibility of anything staining or leaving any kind of mark in the mansion. And again, I'm just using regular tap water, nothing fancy at all. So now that we have water in our container, we have our chicken wire secured in, we're going to start in with what I like to do first by greening the arrangement. And today we're going to use Pittosporum as our green. And then the flowers that I have for today are Delphinium, which is this blue flower here. We have orange ranunculus. We also have this beautiful sort of green, it's called Mojito Hydrangea. And then the last thing that we have are some yellow tea roses. And again, I was really trying to think about the colors that were in the piece of pottery that we were using as our reference. At some point, maybe we can put up a picture of the actual piece. That way you guys can see it as well and understand sort of the colors that I was going with. There it is. Perfect. Yeah. Excellent. So again,
sorry, I'm going to just interject real quickly. This piece is one by contemporary ceramicist Roberto Lugo. It is the newest part of Hillwood's permanent collection, and we are delighted to have it on view in the French drawing room right now. Back to you, Amy.
Of course. And then, like I was saying, I really wanted to sort of pick up this really nice, beautiful, vibrant color that you see in the container, in the vessel that he has so beautifully crafted. So I really am thinking about using my Pittosporum as like one of the main sort of colors that you also would then see in the arrangement as well, or in the container as well. So again, I'm going to, for everyone who has picked up materials today, there's sort of a front and a back of the container. So I am going to do a one-sided arrangement, and I'm going to have this sort of fun little quirky thing as the front of my container. And when I say I'm going to do a one-sided arrangement, I really like to think that it's still very voluminous, and that even from around the sides and even from the back, that you still will see floral as well. So again, I'm going to start by first greening my container. I have a pair of nice sharp floral shears. Whenever I am cutting any of the flowers or any of the greens, I'm always going to cut everything at a nice sharp 45-degree angle. The 45-degree angle then helps to have more surface area for the water to be absorbed. And again, because I'm just doing a one-sided arrangement, I'm going to start by greening from the back and going forward. And my pieces of pittosporum are kind of big and they're a little bit long and kind of cumbersome. So I am going to take them and I'm going to break them down. So I'm not going to use this entire piece of pittosporum, but I'm going to use the little sort of branches of it. I find that if you start just a little bit smaller, especially when you're greening, it then helps to kind of contain it. You can always make it bigger, but it's a lot harder to try and then bring it back down to size after it's been created. I do, though, however, want to take one piece that will sort of, I'll use as my architectural element that will be the anchor of how high and how wide the arrangement is going to be. So I do like this piece here, and I'm going to put this into the side, and I'm going to make it a little bit asymmetric, as I typically do. But this, I kind of like the way it's leaning this way, so I'm actually going to put her over here. Like that. Okay. So again, now I have this sort of wide point and my high point, and a good rule of thumb is always to think about never having your floral arrangement be more than 1.5 times the height of your container. So again, I like how these are nice sort of long pieces, but they're just a little bit too big for this arrangement. And by greening my container about 75%, what I'm also doing is I'm creating a space for my flowers to then sort of nestle into, so that I don't have quite as wide an opening with the chicken wire for the more delicate stems. And then that way, you know, it really can make it a little bit easier when you're arranging. And again, I don't want my arrangement to have that kind of cartoonish, like flat, you know, if you turn it to the side, it's a very flat thing. So what I like to do is, even though the back is the back, I still like it so that there is still some volume back here, because what that does is when you're looking at it from the front, it does kind of help to then give it a little bit more depth. I'm looking at this now from the front because I was doing it from the back. I'm just going to fix this up a little bit. Like so. So I'm just going to put in a little bit more of my pittosporum in the front here, where I see I need some area. Okay. So again, I've got it about 70% greened up. I did not do it the center with the little shape here, but that's okay. Does anyone have any questions at this time about greening your container? Are we good?
I will interject if folks are typing away their questions at home, and we'll make sure we get those to you. But right now, no questions yet.
Excellent. Okay, so let's move on. And I still have some of my greens left over, because what I like to do at the end is always kind of like look and see if there are any bald spots. And that way I can use some of these leftover greens to then fill in some of the spaces. So one of the things whenever I am doing any kind of arrangement, I like to think about what flowers or what blooms are going to take up the most amount of real estate. And today, that happens to be our hydrangea. So I'm going to do my hydrangea first, because that way, once I start to go in with sort of my smaller and more delicate blooms, I'm not going to then have to put in this hydrangea that might end up crushing the delicate blooms. So I like to keep some of the leaves on my hydrangea just because I think that they're kind of fun and it adds a little bit of a textural quality to it. And what I'm going to do with my hydrangea is I'm going to make a triangular sort of pattern with it. And what I always like to think about is using the rule of odd numbers, especially the rule of threes. And so I have 3 hydrangea and I'm going to do this triangular pattern. What that does is it helps to then visually guide you when you're doing your arrangement at home to then figure out how and where the different flowers are going to go. So my first one that I'm going to do.
Amy, can I hop in right here before we start with our first big hydrangea? Leah just submitted a question asking, what if they don't have enough greens? Thinking about how to distribute and design the greenery that is available. And Leah, I don't know if you could chime in through the chat here and let us know if you ordered materials from Hillwood or if you got them somewhere else, just to get a sense of how many greens you're working with.
So one thing you can do is if you don't have enough greens, if you look at this hydrangea that I have right here, I could then really leave a lot of these leaves on, and then I would use that as kind of a filler as well. The other thing that you can do is if you are finding that you don't have a lot of greenery, is that you can go in with your flowers and just move them a little bit closer to the surface of your container. So that way you're covering up some mechanics. Like if let's say I only had this amount of greens. And so now I have this sort of bald spot in the front. What I would do is I would then take my larger blooms or my larger flowers, and I would just put them a little bit closer to the inside of the container. That way you're using this space to sort of cover up the mechanics of the chicken wire.
Awesome. Thank you, Amy. And I think we're ready to go on to hydrangeas, but Robin asked what you typically do to prepare hydrangeas, because she mentioned that in her experience, they can start to wither within a day. And in particular, asked about hammering the ends, which is not a technique I'm familiar with.
So I think that the hammering of any kind of stems is good when you're using woody stems. The hydrangea that we have do not have woody stems. These are ones that are grown in a greenhouse somewhere. We didn't get these from property. So the ones that I think that she might be thinking about are the ones that you actually do harvest, from your own tree, and you do get down to that sort of woody stem area. I find that more than anything else, what helps hydrangeas the most is if you take the hydrangea, you dunk it into cold water before you process it, you let it sit for like a half hour, an hour, and then, you shake off the water afterwards, and then you cut the stems, put them into the fresh water. We do use a hydration solution when we're processing our flowers. And so there is some of that we do put into the water. And then I immediately put them into a cooler to really kind of like cool it down and to keep it from being, too exposed to a lot of warm air. I find that especially with hydrangeas, any kind of temperature change when it starts to get a little bit warmer tends to make them wilt. So even with like this type of hydrangea, if you find that like the next day you come downstairs and you see that your hydrangeas have all kind of like gotten sad, pull them out. That's the other thing that's great about the chicken wire. It makes it a little bit easier. You can then pull them out, dunk them into the cold bath of just nice cold water, submerge their heads, let them sit for a little bit, recut the stems again, and then put them back into your arrangement. And you should notice that they will sort of start to come back to life. I think that hydrangeas can be tricky. A lot of times what I do is I've been able to talk to the vendor where I get my hydrangeas from. So I know the specific cultivars that are going to hold up well versus some of the other ones that don't hold up quite as well. So if you are in a situation where, you know, you need to like have hydrangeas for a wedding or something like that, I would definitely talk to whoever it is that you're buying them from and ask them that way as well. But otherwise, it's kind of like it's a crapshoot. So unfortunately, I don't have a better answer, but
Well, I will just chime in. Thank you so much. I learned so much, and Robin just responded saying she also thanks you and that it's worth her entire class today to have that. And Mary Slimp seconds that. So, since Amy is busy designing, she cannot keep an eye on comments. So I wanted to make sure I passed those along.
excellent. So again, I am going to go in, and again, I do like all of this greenery that's happening, but I am going to take off a couple of these bigger ones so that I have a little bit more space. So I have my first one here in the front. I'm going to come up over here for my second one. And again, I am doing this kind of triangular pattern with my hydrangea. And then I'm going to put my other one here. And these are all going to be at slightly different levels. And what that does is it helps to start giving it a little bit of depth. So again, I like using odd numbers, and I like being able to kind of triangulate my flowers. Okay, so we're going to move on. And the next thing that we have are these yellow tea roses. And again, these, you know, individually are kind of small, but together as a cluster, they're a little bigger. So that's why I'm going to go in with those next. Some of these tea roses, their little heads have popped off some of the stems. So I'm just going to cut those off so that we just have roses on there now. And again, I'm going to do the exact same thing, but this time I'm going to do the reverse of the triangle. So I'm going to fill in with my roses on the opposite sides of where my hydrangea is. I do have one, let's see, a couple. So I'm actually going to do two of them together to make it a little bit bigger of a cluster. Again, cutting it at a nice 45-degree angle. Just gonna tuck those in. But now what I've done with these is one of them's out a little bit further than the other one. It's a little hard to see, but you can kind of see from this angle. So that again, I am giving it that sort of depth feeling so that there is the in and out that I'm using with the stems. And I wanted to do two there to kind of give it a nice sort of like heavier anchor down towards the bottom. And then again, I'm going to come up over here. And tuck those in. And then I'm going to put my last one up here. So they're going to go there. And with the roses, I kind of like them to be facing out this way so that you can actually see their little rose faces. So I'm going to cut this a little bit shorter. There we go. And I'm going to put one more. Again, I have these little sad little places where the little heads popped off, but I'm going to use this one. Down here. This really doesn't want to do that. There. That's what I wanted it to do. Again, so you have this sort of triangular pattern going on right now. I have a couple more stems of my roses, but I'm going to actually hold off on using those for right now because I want to get into my next kind of design element, which is going to be my Delphinium. And I love Delphinium. The blue color in nature, I think, is just amazing. You can just see it's just like this amazing blue color. But I want to use my Delphinium as a kind of touch of whimsy, as I like to say. And I'm going to use this. You can see they're very sort of straight up and down, but I have 5 stems of them. And I really want them to kind of give it a little bit of pizzazz. So I'm going to break my own rule that I just talked about at the very beginning. And I'm going to actually have them be up higher than my anchors of my greenery. But because they are very kind of delicate, I don't think that it's going to be too top heavy. The biggest thing that I like to think about is not making something that's so tall that it looks like it's a hot air balloon and it's just gonna tip right over. But if you have something that's sort of like dainty and delicate and light like this, having it up a little bit higher than, you know, your typical 1.5 times your container, I think is actually okay. And I think that it works. I'm going to face it towards me so that I can see where these are going. And I don't know if you can see this one, but it's got this great little curve to it, which I really love. And I'm going to, again, do my whole sort of triangular patterning with it. So I'm going to come up and then down. And I want to really put one kind of right smack in the center. Like so. It looks a little crazy, but once we add in the taller ones up here, that actually does look a little too crazy even for my standards. So I'm going to fix this. Put that there, like this. And then with this last one, too big. I want it to be up here. I want it to be down here. And I think I'm going to do it down here. But I actually like the way this one is bending. So I'm going to replace this gal, put her back here so that you see this. And then I'm going to put this one down here. Okay. So let me show you what is now happening. So now we've got all of these kind of coming out, doing their own thing. Do you guys have questions about what's happening right now? Are you feeling good with the Delphinium?
I will relay any questions once they get typed. But so far, we seem good.
So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to go in with our last element, which is going to be your smallest bloom, which for me is going to be these ranunculus that I have. And these gals, some of them kind of do their own thing and have these nice little curves to them. And those are the ones that I'm kind of seeking out right now because I have a whole bunch of them, but I want to make sure that they all kind of have their own moment to shine. I don't want to block any of them. Like this little gal here, so cute. And you can see it has a nice little curve to it. And some of them, you can see what I like to do is I like to just gently open them up slightly. So this is going to, these are all sort of a various shade of orange. So I'm going to take this one that's sort of the most orange of them. I'm going to use this as my focal. And so she is going to sit front and center in the arrangement. And from there, I'm now just going to kind of start to fill in. I'm not going to worry about my triangular pattern. I'm just going to kind of go in and see where I like how they just look. And again, this is another plug for how great chicken wire is because you can kind of move things around. The other thing that I like to do is not have all of my flowers facing front. So I like the fact that she's kind of looking up over to the side and see what's going on at that part. And again, like this, I'm going to showcase this beautiful curve. And I have all of my ranunculus or any of your smaller blooms that you have, I have them all really kind of coming out from the arrangement. And so this is going to give it a lot of sort of movement, and it will also give it a lot of depth. These are very close in color to my tea roses that I actually have, but different shape. Okay, so then I put this one over there. And again, I don't want it to be this weird kind of cartoonish flat back. So I'm going to put one of my ranunculus actually back here so that there's a little bit of color back here and a little bit of movement. So that when you're looking at it from all different sides, there is something happening back here. And I'll probably put in a little bit of my pittosporum to kind of secure it in place. So I want it to be like this, kind of hanging out back here, but she doesn't want to do that on her own. So I'm going to help out a little bit with some of my pittosporum to kind of anchor it into place where I actually want it to stay. Like that. Okay, so I'm going to keep going with my ranunculus. I want one to come out sort of branching this way. And so it's kind of coming out and slightly down. I have another one that's really kind of like a darker orange. I'm actually going to put her friend here. And now she's got a little friend that she's talking to over there. Let's see. Ooh, look at this one. This one's beautiful. I love the natural shape and curve of that. So I'm definitely going to want that think I'm actually going to move this one. I'm going to put this one there. Ooh, yes, I like that. I like what's happening right there. That little moment, I think is quite fun. So I'm going to move this one now, I think up towards the back here. Like that. And I just have 2 more that I'm going to use. Let's see. I love the ranunculus that kind of open up. You can really see the inside of it, like this one here. Where you can kind of see inside. It's shedding some of its petals. So I'm just going to remove those. Oops. Oh, that's happening. I'm going to put this gal over here. Kind of down a little bit. I don't want to block these roses that I have. Just make it a little bit shorter. Yeah. So it's in right there, but still not blocking the roses. So I have a little, I would say, bald spot right in there. So I'm going to take, if you have any of your roses left over, it's a good time to just go in and start filling in with those. Or if you don't have any of those left over, you could go in with some more ranunculus, or you could go in with some more pittosporum. I'm going to put in some roses down there. There. And I'm going to move that up just a little bit. So now I feel like I'm good with the flowers that I have in there for now, but I want to go in and fill in with some more of my pittosporum to give it a little more volume. And also to make sure I have no bald spots in the front, which I do. So I'm looking right here, and you can see that bald spot right there. So I'm going to go in and put a little pittosporum in there. Like that. Maybe one more piece. And like that. No. Go in right there. All right. So now this is the arrangement. So even though the back is a little bit naked in terms of not having flowers, it still has some greenery and it still has a little bit of volume as well. Let's see if I can just do a little bit like this. Move this back like that. I'm going to put a little dark background so you can see the arrangement.
Amy, that looks beautiful.
What questions do you guys have for me? I was really trying to, channel again all of these vibrant colors that are in the amazing piece of pottery, Good Trouble, and also, kind of capture the vibrancy of the people who are represented on that piece of pottery as well.
I love that. And again, I'd just like to invite anyone who's in the DC area or will be soon to come and see that piece in person. It is truly spectacular, and the colors are so, so, so vivid. We have not, go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say, and I do feel like looking at this, I feel like it's a little bit muted on screen than it is in person. So I'm hoping for the people who picked up materials from Hillwood today and who are at home also see that the colors are a lot more vibrant in real life than they are actually on camera.
Excellent. Well, we have not gotten any questions yet. So at this point, I want to invite anyone who has been working alongside Amy at home to turn on your cameras if you are ready to join us for some show and tell. The next time we'll gather as a group for a virtual floral design workshop is on Friday, July 22nd, and I will drop a link in the chat to that Asian-inspired floral design workshop in just a moment. And before I spotlight our first guest, Amy, Rhoda asked with a question about why you felt the space between the two delphiniums looked a little bit like a bald, that it wasn't a bald spot, and how did you make that decision?
Oh, right in here when I was talking earlier. So when I was looking at it, there was a little bit, I think it's hard because, again, looking at something in 2-dimension versus looking at something in 3-dimension, it looked very noticeable to me. I think that it was difficult to kind of see from a 2-dimensional scale because everything kind of flattens itself out, but I was able to see that there was a bit of a bald spot, and I wanted to fill that in.
Excellent. I think Rhoda might have been talking about on the other side.
The other side.
I'm not sure. I am now having trouble tracking things in 2D versus 3D as well. So, Rhoda, if you would like to clarify, please send more information and I'll do our best to help pin down the exact right spot that you're asking for clarification on. But in the meantime, I am going to ask Julia to tell us a little bit more about this gorgeous arrangement she has beautifully framed up on her camera.
Yes, well, I kind of followed Amy's general template, and the flowers are just beautiful and vibrant, and they go so nicely with the vase. And then I have a nice mat that they can sit on that kind of complements the colors.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And I think that in terms of, the way everything was composed works perfectly too.
Good, good. Wonderful as always.
Thank you.
Excellent. And Amy, if you can spin the first side of the front side of your arrangement, Rhoda was asking about facing the front on the left side. So I am thinking that she means by that dangling ranunculus down at the bottom.
Down here?
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful.
I think that
Amy.
when I was doing this, I added this in. I'm going to take it out right now. So I added in because you could see this was what I was talking about, this kind of bald spot right there. So that's why I decided I can look at it now and think, it's okay. But I think that adding this ranunculus in the way I did, I think just fills it a little bit more.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And while I ask Nancy to come on screen here. Kathy asked in the chat if I could remind folks how long the Luxury of Clay will be on view. It closes on June 22nd. And Kathy asked if Good Trouble will remain on view after the end of the exhibition. I do not know if it will stay up straight through or if we'll have to look for our next time to get it back on view, but it is in its permanent home here at Hillwood, and we will certainly be making sure that that is on view in the future. All right, Nancy.
Trying to get this so that I can get the whole piece, and it's not happening. But
Try doing it from up top instead of from coming up from below. Yeah, like that. Gorgeous.
okay, I needed to substitute quite a few of the flowers. There was not a ranuncula in our town, nor were there any delphiniums. So I substituted freesia and I think some snapdragons.
Excellent. Yeah, the snapdragons act as the same sort of shape and size as the delphinium would. And the freesia also, again, it's a smaller, more delicate bloom than the other ones. So I think that that works out really well.
Yeah, so that was fun. Thank you.
Gorgeous.
All right, thank you, Nancy. And is that Jerry there?
Yes, it's me. A familiar place.
A familiar
So-
face and slightly obscured by some beautiful flowers.
Right. So I cut my hydrangeas a little short so they are a little more positioned, but I think it looks gorgeous. I love these colors together.
No, I think it's amazing. Can you, is there any way you can kind of tilt it down just a little? Yeah, like that.
Can you see, are you seeing mine or?
Yeah, no, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that looks beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Jerry. Let's see.
I don't think you can see mine.
Let me.
This is Barbara Wiss.
Excellent, Barbara. I am putting you up on the screen right now.
It's hard to tell.
Oh no, it looks beautiful.
It looks better in person, I will tell you. But
No,
I think
is
there's
there-
a little bare here, and I would like to add some ranunculus or something more at the top.
So I think now, did you use all of the roses and the ranunculus or no?
Yep, I used it all.
Used it all. So the only thing that I would say is you could reposition slightly the one delphinium, the one that's closest to your head right now.
This one.
Yes, you could just shift it over slightly. And I think that would also give the kind of like fill in, I think, for you visually.
Thank you. Oh, it makes it much better.
Gorgeous.
I am always amazed at how that one little tweak that Amy suggests is always exactly what I needed without realizing, and that she can do it through Zoom too. It is a skill you have finally honed over the last 2 years, Amy.
Just 2 years.
Sylvia, that
that's
looks
beautiful.
gorgeous.
I love the
Thank
background too.
Oh, I just love these colors and the mix of flowers. This was such fun.
And well, it looks gorgeous.
Thank you.
Absolutely beautiful.
All right, I'm gonna invite Sarah and Beth up on screen.
Oh, wonderful.
We had so much fun. We were also saying we love both the flower and the color choices are so pretty.
And I love that you guys are together, but your arrangements are completely different. And I think that's part of the fun of it is that you can just, everyone starts with the same amount of materials or the same base, but then you have obviously your own personalities that get reflected into your arrangement. It looks beautiful.
Thank
Great,
you. We
thanks.
had so
It
much
was fun.
fun.
All right, and Leah, I'm gonna ask you to join us up here. Oh, no. All right, does that mean that I got everybody?
Oh yeah, sorry, I was just accidentally hit the turn off button of my
Excellent.
phone. Yeah.
I was worried that I had put you on the spot and you were like, let me escape.
No, that's awesome. And I'm the one like in Philadelphia, so I couldn't get any of the pieces from Hillwood, but I bought from Trader Joe's. So I don't have the Delphinium, but I put the iris, which has the similar color as the purple one, or like the blue and purple-ish. And I love this color as well, so it's fabulous. And open to any suggestions Amy have for this.
No, I love that you were able to figure out the instead of the delphinium, but you substituted it in with another blue flower of the iris. So I think that works out really well. And I really love, you it looks like, via Zoom, it looks like it's definitely in the same color palette as well. So even though, you're not here, you're in Philadelphia, it still feels very much like the arrangements that we have here that we've done. I think it looks great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and I think we have one final question for you, Amy. And that is, Kathy said she loves the vase so much, she'd love to know a little bit more about where it is from.
That
Is this one of your wholesalers?
An excellent question. So I did a big purchase of containers in December. So this either came from Accent Decor or it came from Jamali Gardens. If it came from Accent Decor, then they are only a wholesale provider. But if it came from Jamali, Jamali is actually a place in New York City that you can either go to in person or you can go on their website, and they sell to everyone. You don't have to have a wholesale account to purchase through them. So I don't remember which.
That is perfectly fine, especially since Jamali Gardens is a site that, they're both great places. I know you recommend to look for containers, and I did just write those names down in the chat for anybody. Because once I saw Jamali written, of course that's how it's spelled, but I would have probably Googled it a million different ways first. So if anyone else is like me, it is there in the chat for you. I just want to thank everybody for spending a Friday afternoon with us, and thank you, Amy, for brightening it up with this incredibly vivid color palette on what turned out to be kind of a gray day here in Washington.
A little bit, but yes, I always think that some bright florals can always brighten up any day, even if it is storming outside.
I hope we'll see you all when we next gather in July for the Japanese inspired or Asian inspired floral design.
Yes. Great. Thank you everyone for coming out today.
Bye-bye.
Bye.